Look at a picture of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's massive, utterly overwhelming. And when you look up how it was built, that single question has captivated human imagination for millennia. Was it slave labor? Did they use advanced alien technology? Or was it something far more basic, and thus far more brilliant? For most people, the pyramid is a mystery of brute force, stacked by countless sweating slaves hauling massive stones uphill. But once you peel back those pop culture myths, you find that we are dealing with one of history's greatest organizational feats. A project requiring not just stone and sweat, but advanced mathematics, logistics, and political will on an unimaginable scale. Think about the sheer numbers involved. We're talking millions of tons of limestone, granite sourced hundreds of miles away, all moved and placed with enough precision that if you built one now, it would still be standing today. The timeline alone is baffling. Most historians agree these were not single-event projects, but multi-generational undertakings, massive national infrastructure programs. So let's start by addressing the biggest lie, the slave myth. Archaeological evidence has fundamentally rewritten that story. The workers who built the pyramids weren't captives. They were skilled laborers and conscripts, a dedicated workforce supplied by local communities, paid with food and goods. This wasn't a prison labor camp. It was an incredibly sophisticated job site. These builders maintained remarkable quality of life for the time, complete with medical care facilities, specialized cemeteries, and even bakehouses found near the sites. The evidence suggests they were highly motivated professionals who saw this work as contributing to their civilization's glory, perhaps through a kind of state-sponsored employment model we can only vaguely compare to modern civil service projects. But how did they move everything? We often picture them dragging stones on ropes across sand dunes. While sledges and muscle power were definitely involved, the true genius lies in understanding friction and geometry. The angle of approach mattered more than we think. Consider the core materials. Much of the outer casing was made of finer Tura limestone quarried across the Nile River. For these river stones, barges were key. They utilized Egypt's incredible logistical advantage. The Nile itself served as their primary highway, drastically reducing land transport friction and costs. When it came to the massive inner core blocks, like the granite used in king chamber sarcophagi, we are talking about materials quarried over 500 miles away in Aswan. Moving those monoliths required sophisticated engineering techniques involving wooden sledges dragged across prepared ramps and potentially lubricated with wet clay or water to drastically reduce friction coefficients. Now, the real technological marvel isn't simply moving a block, it's lifting it. The pyramids didn't just appear fully formed. They were built piece by agonizingly slow piece, using immense ramps. The theory here is crucial and hotly debated. There are three major ramp theories. First, the straight ramp going directly up the face of the pyramid. That's simple, but requires gargantuan amounts of material. Second, a spiral ramp wrapping around the structure as it grew. And third, and perhaps most plausible, an internal ramp system, utilized only in later stages and never visible today. This focus on internal ramps explains how they could maintain stability while keeping the work area contained and manageable for thousands of workers moving upwards through temporary passageways. They were essentially building a machine that housed their monument. But we need to talk about the planning phase, the architecture itself. The precision is staggering. For instance, the base dimensions of the Great Pyramid are aligned almost perfectly with true north. This level of astronomical and mathematical knowledge wasn't accidental. It speaks to a deeply integrated state that prized both religion and applied science. They weren't just building tombs. They were constructing elaborate cosmic machine diagrams meant to ensure the pharaoh's safe passage into the afterlife, making him a divine link between the earth and the gods. The pyramid was less a grave and more a massive engine for resurrection. This leads us to the how of the actual construction rhythm. It wasn't brute force every single day. There were seasonal cycles tied to the Nile's flooding, periods of intense labor when resources were optimized, and necessary rest periods built into the timeline itself. And here's a concept most people overlook: standardized measurement and tooling. The Egyptians didn't invent tools in a vacuum. They perfected sophisticated copper chisels, dolerite pounders for softer stone, and complex systems of plumb lines and trammels for ensuring perfect verticality at every layer. This indicates that their society had specialized classes, full-time quarry experts, master mathematicians, logistics coordinators, architects, and skilled stonemasons, a true multidisciplinary industrial force far beyond the scope of simple manual labor. Think about resource allocation, feeding tens of thousands of workers, managing seasonal fluctuations in food supply, coordinating millions of units of measured stone, all while maintaining a functional state economy. That is the story here. It's an unprecedented demonstration of global-scale management circa 2500 BCE. The economic ripple effect was enormous. Local communities relied on the pyramid project for sustenance and stability. The surplus goods generated by the workers often fed back into local trade, keeping entire regional economies functioning long after the burial process concluded. Now, let's look at the internal structure again. The complex network of passageways and chambers designed not just to hold a body, but to manage the ka, or life force energy in the afterlife. This shows us that the function dictated the engineering, not the other way around. Furthermore, the concept of the pyramid itself evolved greatly. The earliest mastaba tombs were simple rectangular structures. Over time, and with increasing pharaonic power and belief in eternal divinity, these designs expanded into stepped pyramids, like Djoser's, and finally culminating in the smooth-sided perfection we associate with Giza. This evolution is key. It tracks a deepening theological understanding of kingship, a shift from simply honoring the deceased pharaoh to constructing an almost architectural manifestation of solar divinity itself. The king was literally recreating Ra's journey across the sky in stone. So, if we peel back the layers of myth and brute force, what are we left with? We're left with a civilization that possessed not only staggering engineering prowess, but also an incredibly robust social contract. A system where the individual's labor was directly tied to their spiritual destiny and the continuity of the state. The pyramids weren't just built by Egyptians. They were built for a cohesive, mathematically sophisticated, bureaucratic civilization that had mastered resource management on a continental scale. It was arguably one of the world's first great mega-projects. By understanding the logistics, the ramps, the barges, the organizational structure, we realize these structures were masterpieces of applied history. They stand not just as tombs, but as ultimate monuments to human ingenuity and societal organization. But there's a final counterintuitive twist we should consider. The pyramids themselves are slowly sinking into the unstable bedrock beneath the Giza Plateau due to deep seismic shifts and water erosion over millennia. They require continuous engineering study today just to remain standing for us to see them tomorrow. The survival of the Great Pyramids is in a way more miraculous than their original construction, a perfect blend of geological luck, modern scientific intervention, and sheer historical defiance. So next time you look at those monumental triangles piercing the desert sky, remember that it wasn't just muscle power, it was organizational genius. It was mathematics married to belief, executed by a deeply structured society. If this journey through ancient logistics blew your mind, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Braindrop for more deep dives into the history and engineering of the unbelievable. Tell me in the comments what topic I should tackle next.